Hi there, this is Michael Rashad. As developers, we, all of us that is, spend a lot of time doing the same thing over and over again. And we create value lists, we create portals, we create relationships, and each time we do that, we have to redo some of the work we've already done one or more times. And one of the great advantages of Nautilus FM is the ability to take a piece of code that you've developed and reuse it over and over again with basically no changes and no additional work. The underlying concept of RaceTeam is managing parts and inventory. And to do that, we start with a list of parts. Right now we're looking at a portal, and in the middle of this portal, which is on a gray background, are all the parts that are in the system. And over on the left hand side you have categories, and each part has a single category, and then there are subcategories, and each part can have multiple subcategories. When I'm looking at I'm looking at all of the items and all of the subcategories, and I can click on any subcategory to filter down. If I go to consumables, I've got a different list of subcategories and I've got a different list of products. Same if I go to parts, I've got subcategories for parts, and tires and wheels, I've got subcategories for that. So I can very quickly drill down to find a specific part. I can also start typing a few letters in the filter field, and it will instantly filter down to those records, and it shows what I've typed in red within those records, so I can quickly see what I want to see. Now, when I click on a part, that part becomes highlighted, in other words, reversed out. And on the right hand side of the screen is all the information I have on that particular part. Inventory value, categories, subcategories, where it's stored, and if it's been used on a specific vehicle, that would show up on the right hand side. So that's the parts management side of it, the basic side of it. But where Nautilus really comes into its own is the ability to take this section on the left under the grey background and reuse it in multiple places with no changes other than having the button that you press inside the portal do something differently. So we're going to take a look at other ways this is used within this same solution without requiring us to redevelop the same thing over and over again. This is the vendor screen where we keep a track of all the different vendors that we're using, their purchase orders, and the parts that we can order from that vendor. Now, any part can be ordered from multiple vendors, but in this particular case, this section in the center are the parts that can be ordered from this particular vendor, Unipart. On the right hand side, we have exactly the same portal and selectors that we have on the part screen. And right now, as you can see, we have the same selections we found. Now, if I want to add a part to the vendor, let's say this one here, I click on it, and it's now disappeared from this list on the right because it's already been added to the list of parts for the vendor. You can see it's right at the top. And this allows us to build a list of parts that we can order from that vendor. We're now looking at a purchase order for that same vendor, and you can see all the order items in the middle section and the grey panel on the right hand side, but that grey panel is not showing anything, and that's because this purchase order has already been sent, and you're not allowed to add items to a purchase order that has been sent. But if I unsend this, the portal display appears. Now, in this particular case, we have our original selector, which is here, and we also have a selector of all the parts that are available from this vendor. So we would start by adding parts by clicking on the part here to move it into the purchase order. But if that part hasn't been added, we can now search for it click on it, and it will add it to that purchase order. Now, in this case, the part hasn't disappeared because you could add it more than once, although the program, if you try and add one that's already been added, and those are shown with the part number reversed out in green, if you try and add a part that's already been added, it will ask you if you want to update the quantity. So that's how we're using that same portal, same section, on the purchase order side. Now, just to show you, if we want to view the purchase order, we just press the button and the purchase order now appears on the same screen. You can scroll up and down, you can see all the totals and everything, and then you can either print it, save it as a PDF, email it, or just close it. On the event screen, we're managing what's happening at a particular event, and we're assigning parts or moving parts onto specific vehicles for that event, either during the event or after the event. And this is so that we can keep a track of what each event is costing in terms of parts and what parts are used. Now, as you can see on the right hand side, we have our portal, and again, all of the items that have already been added for this particular event are reversed out on a green background. And they show here, and when you change the quantity, it also updates the inventory levels automatically. So again, this same portal is being used for a different purpose, and when you click on the button or the part itself, it actually adds it to this event for the selected vehicle. And if you want to see the report for the event, that pops up, and you can now make changes, do whatever you want. You can change the status from after event to during event, and that will move it into a different section. At the end of it, you can also switch from one event to another to receive the numbers for that event, and then at the end of it you can print, email it, or save it as a PDF, and then when you've finished you close. So we've just shown you several ways that we're able to use the same code base over and over again, but just have it do different things. Now obviously this is a big time saver in terms of development, but it also gives the user a feeling of consistency, and they don't have to really think too hard about what they're going to do. This selector for parts will likely end up on other screens within this single solution, and there they will have different uses. Now, I should mention that setting up this portal in the first place was quite complicated and was time consuming, and that's especially important because it's something you don't want to have to do over and over again. That's it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.